Hello YouTubers. I decided today I'm going to show you how I built my quarantine tank. I am showing you now, this is my 30-gallon tank that I've had up and running since April, and this is August. And actually I started at the end of April, almost the 1st of May. So it's been up and running now just a few months. And it's doing actually pretty well. Let's see, get a little bit of a reflection of me in there. Let's see if I can get me out of there. You can actually see that's my Nubius. There's some pretty good looking neons in there that are looking pretty good. Let's see, there's a little dwarf frog there. They're actually doing pretty good in there, but that's not what the video is about today, so let's not spend too much time there. But I did want to give you something to look at before I got started here. I have a little quarantine tank that I put up and run, and I started out, it actually instant cycles, and I kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of how to do that. That was new to me. I actually have been doing fish well, off and on since I was 16, and I did not know the nitrogen cycle at all when I was young, and some fish would live and some would die, and I didn't have a clue why that was. And when I started up again here a few years back, again I didn't have a clue what was going on. And so when I started in April, I started looking for fish tanks on Craigslist and started doing some research. I love the internet, by the way, and I found a site called FishLore. So here's my plug for fishlore.com. Love you guys. And I read up on the nitrogen cycle, and I just couldn't get enough. I finally understood why some of my fish lived and some died. And the first thing I did was get a quarantine tank. And I wanted to have an instant cycle in that tank, and so I just went with a small one. This, what you're looking at now, is a file folder container that I bought from the Dollar General. It will hold right at 4 gallons if you fill it all the way up. I don't fill it quite that full, but it is just a simple, it has handles here that lock, and a lid that fits on pretty good. And but you can see that's just a simple file folder, clear, see-through. The plastic you can see through pretty good. I'm sure it'll scratch over time, but you can get one of these for just $6. So and the little guys, if they're well, I keep them in there about 4 weeks, and if I see no problems, then I'll move them into the bigger tank. Something like snails or something I may keep in there less than that. I tend to be impatient, but I want to make sure that I'm not exposing the guys in my bigger tank to something, and that would be a disaster at this point, because that tank is really healthy. My neon tetras have been gravid, which basically means they're full of eggs, and that's kind of rare. Or at least it has been for me. I never had that happen for me in the past. But you'll also need a little heater, and I bought a little heater. You can see my heater right here. This little heater will fit in there. You could even turn it sideways if need be, but you do need a little heater. I spent a little bit of extra money to get one that is adjustable. I did not want one, if you'll look, like what you find at Walmart and such. Most of those are preset, and I did not want one that was preset. I also purchased a small hanging on the back filter. This one is an Aqueon filter. You see it comes with this little thing. Works basically as what some people would think of as bio balls, but it will collect the bacteria. Sometimes I put this in my tank, my existing tank. Normally I don't worry about that, but I do put the media that comes with it is a little bag, and I'm going to show you a larger one because I didn't buy extras of this one yet. And this I do, it comes already in it, and it looks like this, only it's smaller. This one goes in my larger filter. It looks exactly like this, only it's smaller. And I just wanted to show you the components, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But so you have this part that fits right in here like this. You have this that comes out, and in it will be one of these, only smaller. And then you have this tube that comes off the bottom here. That's your intake tube, and of course you have your plug that plugs it in. When this comes in the thing, it will be wrapped in plastic. I take it, and this is the top. I take it and I cut a slit right here at the top. And inside is going to be carbon, just like this. This is what came out of my smaller one. And I turn it over while it's still dry, and I shake it, and I dump this carbon out on a paper plate. Carbon is used for two things in the aquarium. It is used to reduce odor, and it is used to remove any medications or things that you might treat the water with. Well, if your fish get sick in quarantine, you want to be able to treat them with medications, and if you do that, the carbon will immediately remove any medications that you put in the tank. So you don't want that in your filter in quarantine. So I take this, I cut it at the top, I dump the stuff out on a paper plate, and I save it in case I might want to use it later, for example, to remove the medications that I put in quarantine at a later date. But that's what I do with the filter in the beginning. And then I take the filter and I stick it in the back of my filter in addition to the one I already have in my existing tank. And I do that so that it can collect up beneficial bacteria that you need for your nitrogen cycle. And I'm not going to get into the nitrogen cycle here. You need to get online and read up about it. There's some great things to read on fishlore.com about the nitrogen cycle, and if you just want to Google nitrogen cycle, you can find all you need to know. But that is what I do with my filter. My small one that goes in this unit is in my existing tank right now, and when I need to run my quarantine tank, it will come out and go into this unit, and I won't have to cycle my quarantine tank, and that way I don't have to run it all the time. I know people that run theirs all the time, and in order to run a tank and keep it running all the time, you have to have fish in it, or the bacteria will die. It doesn't have anything to feed on. So rather than do that and keep that little tank up and running all the time, I simply keep filter in my existing tank so that I can move it over at any time. Anyway, that is what I do for my filter. And I just store this under the cabinet for a later use. And anyway, back to the tank now. I took the tank and get back over here. I took the tank. Let's make sure you can still see this. I took the tank and I took the lid off, and then I took the back handle and pop it off. And it's just on there. It's got a little bar across there that this little handle is attached to. And I've not got real strong hands, but it doesn't really take too bad. You just pop that off and pitch it. And then you take and kind of mark on your tank how much space you need. It's a little more than the width of the handle for this. I usually set mine right in the center and make little marks. You can actually see where mine was marked, but you also mark it on the lid, kind of get an idea, and then you cut out. I used a Dremel tool to cut mine, but you can see I actually have two of those buckets, but you can see where I went back. This is the one that I cut, made a cutout. I actually went back, I cut small in the beginning and then went back and just kind of trimmed out over and over until I got enough space. And I actually had it so tight that the lid buckled a little bit. So it's in there this way. But as you can see, there's a space here where it hangs over the back of the tank. And I had it so tight that I almost couldn't get the power cord in there. And you need room also for the heater cord and for an air line. And the air line, when I first did this, I was just going to put an air stone in there. The other thing that I do is I have a sponge heater, or a sponge filter in my main tank, and let me show you that. It's just a small sponge filter. I think I paid $8 for it, but it is right there. See it in there? And all it uses is an air line to run, and the air goes up the tube and it sucks in water through the sponge, and it will go up the tube with the air, and so it filters the water through the sponge and up through the outlet pipe there. Well, I will disconnect that in this main tank and also move it over to the quarantine tank anytime I need to run this quarantine tank. And so I need a line over here for the, set my stand back up here. Sorry about the wobbling. But anytime that I need a line here for that sponge filter, it needs to go in the sides here or over the top. But this lid goes back on. And some fish, sometimes I'll tuck a little paper towel or something underneath the back of the filter in between the tank and the filter here to keep it from wobbling. This is just a temporary setup, so it's not that big a deal that it doesn't fit real tight. But all of these things go in this bucket. Filter goes in. I actually usually set this tank up on this little table here, and the filter goes in. This air line, right now it's turned off. I don't have an extra air unit. I just hook it to, I have a Gain cock up there, and I hook it to the same air pump as that other tank, and so I don't have to buy another air pump. And but I just run it that way, and then I put the lid back on, and I run this all of that up through there like so. And I've actually run it with just the one filter, the hang on the back filter, but I don't ever want it to cycle, not even a mini cycle. And so I put both those filters in there. I've checked both my, I do the tests on the water, looking for ammonia, nitrates, and nitrites in both the larger tank and in this quarantine tank, and neither one of them have ever kicked into a mini cycle when I pulled the filters, the filter media out of the large tank and put into the smaller tank. And I guess the larger tank, it has, the gravel in it. It has the beneficial bacteria of, all of it that's in the gravel and on the plants and in the filters and stuff that are still there. And it's managed to maintain its nitrogen cycle. And then when I move both the sponge filter and the filter media over from that tank into this quarantine tank, it's enough to maintain the nitrogen cycle on just 4 gallons of water. And I check it every day, and I do water changes on this tank of at least 25% every 2 days. And I haven't had any problem. And I have had the most fish or invertebrates or anything I've ever had in here at one time, for that, the heaviest load, bio load that I've had on this tank. At one time, I had 6 ghost shrimp, 2 dwarf frogs, and 4 mystery snails and 4 Nerite snails all in this tank at one time. I bought them all out of the same tank at my local fish store and brought them home and put them in this tank all at one time, which is a huge load on a 4-gallon quarantine tank. But I did 25% water change every day, and it held up just fine. I didn't have any trouble with ammonia levels or anything like that. So anyway, that is a quarantine tank in a nutshell for you guys. So hope it works out for you too. If you like it, please like me and give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Any comments or questions? I'd like to know that too. Thanks.